apparently. I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Three Bros All Game. Right now, you got your host, Zeph. Right now, to the left of me, you got Newt Man. Say what's up, Newt.
What's going on,
That's right.
fellas?
And right there on the right, we got Legacy Force. Say what's up, Legacy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, man?
What's going on? So today we're going to talk about something that's been going on for a good while now, and that's the mobile arms race. Right now, you got Microsoft versus Google. Well, you got Microsoft with their Windows platform for phones. You also have Google with their open source Android, or quote unquote open source, if you want to call it that. You also have Apple with their iOS. And then you also have BlackBerry, and you have a couple of other people out there who are definitely trying to go ahead and make their name for themselves within the race. But right now, you got the three great ones right there: Microsoft, Apple, and also not to mention so Apple and Google. So your thoughts on this race? Go ahead, Legacy. Start first.
I'm gonna tell you right now, man. Mobile is obviously really hot, and I don't think anybody can disagree. You see it, and it being more prevalent than anywhere but in the games realm. I mean, there's a lot of gamers, casual gamers, that have kind of left some of the consoles and have really taken to mobile. And I'm not even talking about Game Boy or PSP or anything like that, but your iPhones, your Android devices, your Windows Phone platform, Angry Birds. It's ridiculous. And what's really nice about it is that being a lot of these mobile phones, you start to see 3D games on there because of the processing power that's just been improving. So it's significant, and it's a huge impact, and it's only going to get bigger.
Right, definitely. Now, for the record, I kind of want to go ahead and kind of tell everyone exactly where we stand in terms of this. I myself own I used to own a Windows Phone 7 phone before it actually evolved into just Windows Phone. I also own a Google phone. Newt Man, go ahead and tell them what phone you own right now.
Currently, I got the HTC 8S. You know what I'm saying? Windows Phone. I decided to take that risk, jump in. So far, I love it. Coming from an Android device, and before the Android device, had a good experience with the iOS. So touching all three platforms, kind of want to look into the BB10. That's kind of exciting. The thing I'm thinking about all this is that as gamers, why are we talking about this? We talk about this because, as Legacy said, if we went from phones to smartphones, and now they're just straight called like mobile devices. Devices meaning like it's just utilized for multiple things, and gaming is now crossing over from our consoles, from our PCs down to the mobile platform.
Right.
So it's very exciting, and for a while the market was locked. The Apple, the Android, back and forth, and it's kind of exciting to see that now there's other players trying to move up in there.
Right. Definitely. With especially with Apple and Microsoft to a lower extent, they're definitely trying to go ahead and move, especially to that gaming area. I noticed that Apple and Microsoft are trying to go ahead and do that. I know Microsoft's trying to sneak it in there, but oh, we don't have a dedicated mobile device for gaming yet. Windows Phone is definitely they're taking that. Um, uh, Legacy, what device do you have?
I am definitely enjoying my Samsung Galaxy S3. I'm really thinking about, I mean, I haven't had it that long, less than a year. I'm really thinking about making the jump to the Galaxy S4. Just an awesome phone. And we also own an iPhone, so I'm familiar with the iOS platform and an iPad. But I got to agree with Noop on this one. There's no question that the popularity and with the games and everything else, it's humming right now.
Oh, definitely. For the record, everyone already knows. For those who are not familiar with my other channels, I've actually worked for Apple for about a year and a half, so I do have experience with the iOS operating system. So, I mean, the thing is that not a lot of people who work for Apple would tell you this, but and a lot of people might disagree with me, but you kind of have to wonder why Apple is even a relevant how to say a relevant member of the whole mobile arms race. Because I mean, to be honest with you, the iPhone is not that good. What do you guys
Well,
think?
okay, but you got to give credit where it's due, and sorry to cut you off here, Zeph, but
Uh-huh.
the truth of the matter is, and you can follow this going back with Apple's share price from early 2000s all the way up to where it is now. They reinvented the whole concept of what a phone could be with the iPhone, like it or not. And I'm not an Apple fanboy. I really enjoyed my Android devices, but when Steve Jobs unveiled it in 2007, it completely changed what people thought a phone could be and should be. And they beat Microsoft, man. They beat them in the tablet space. They beat them. They really found the right integration and the right ease of use they found that right mixture, and so they deserve credit for that, man.
And,
And
and,
so,
and
so,
go ahead.
yeah, so I'll agree with you that wow, Apple's getting a little tired. It's the iOS on the iOS itself is a little old right now. It's feeling a little dated, but it's still relevant because you got to remember, smartphones is not just for new techies like us. It's for grandmas and everybody else who wants to be familiar with the device and they don't want to change anything. So
Well, I do agree with that, but I mean, yeah, and it's like it's not really the fact that they're not relevant, but how relevant are they? Is my particular point of view on this. I mean, it's like Nintendo. Back in the day, especially in the '80s, Nintendo was extremely relevant. Just like Apple, they can be considered the ones who pretty much saved, well, the U.S. gaming market, should I say? Don't want to give them too much, don't want to give them that extra credit that they don't deserve, but they pretty much saved the U.S. gaming market. But at the same time, if you actually go ahead and take a look at the relevancy of, we'll say the Wii U, it's not as relevant. I mean, is that what Apple is going through right now, especially without Steve Jobs at the helm? Because you got to admit, a lot of things that they actually had, well, let me put it this way. The light that they looked good in was only because Steve Jobs, That's my take on it.
So there's certainly he was a big piece of the innovation, and he knew how to tell his people no and how to push his designers out there. So there's no question about that. But is it relevant? Yes, absolutely. I mean, look at the sales. I mean, you got to look at Apple's stock price. I think it was over $600 a share. I haven't checked it in a while, but you got to look how much buzz the Apple devices generate every single time. So it's still relevant because people still buy them. That's the way I see it.
I think I have to agree with you, Lacey. I mean, Apple did start all the iOS, regardless of how much they are, at least for the long haul, it's still the phone to get. And it's crazy. It's like whenever a new version come out, whether it's a number or an S with that number, there is lines leading around blocks, and there are people not even up for contract just getting their new phone. So they had definitely, since they started, they got that long lead, and I guess more room to just kind of develop and sit back a little bit and enjoy it. But the iPhone is still the masses. You can't go anywhere without seeing one. It's just the way it is right now.
Right.
I'm sorry, I had to correct myself. It's not $600 a share, $392 a share. I had to check that, so my bad.
Oh, fair enough. No problem. I mean, but is that really in terms of relevancy, or is that just because we got a whole bunch of sheeple out there?
There's people buyers.
I mean, here's the weird thing about it. And I think, Zeph, me and you can talk about this. We talk about relevancy, and then everyone gets on that whole my phone can do this, my phone's better. Look at all these new things. iPhone just still the same. But it's not about, to me, a lot of us we equate relevancy with the new abilities, newest things. Right. And it's not about that. To me, it's just the average use of the average consumer. And in my opinion, the iOS started it and has it locked. We talk about things like NFC and the different technologies coming out, the new stuff, but how relevant is that new stuff? It is real great for us techies, maybe for some of our gamers out there who just enjoy having the new
as I like to call it, features of phones. But you think about it, how often do you walk up? How relevant is it to walk up somebody and tap someone's phone and say, "Hey, look at this picture I done took," or "Hey, you want?" I mean, unless you're doing it to show, it's not really mainstream. And everything iOS has is mainstream. The other stuff that's coming is great. Using your eyes to I guess with the S4, I think it was supposed to be with the Galaxy S4, being able to scroll with your eyes and stuff. That is amazing and cool. But the average consumer use, business use, I mean, it's just that's iOS, and the others are trying to catch up, which is great for us consumers.
If I can throw something in there behind you, Noop. The other thing I think they're dealing with fragmentation issues and branding. And let me explain a little bit. I mean, when you buy an iPhone, you buy an iPhone. There is no HTC iPhone, Samsung iPhone. I mean, it's one product. It's simple. People understand what an iPhone is. I mean, the term is so ubiquitous at this point that people confuse, people non-techies confuse, other smartphone devices with iPhone. The name is synonymous with that. When you think about the Android devices, it's fragmented. And so you may have, Jelly Bean on one, Ice Cream Sandwich on another, an older version. And the experience is not quite the same because Google allows developers the freedom to kind of modify, make minor modifications to the interface. And so, I guess when you put all that together, it's hard for most people, I think, who don't want to spend the time to understand what kind of device you're getting, to kind of make that distinction. So they go with what's familiar. They go with what they know. And so even though the operating system is getting dated, it's still something that's very comfortable, very easy. Whether it's an iPhone 4, 4S, 3, 3S, I guess. I can't remember which one it was, or even the iPhone 5 that's coming out. Pretty much what kind of experience you're going to get.
So what about okay, so that's pretty much in terms of the quote unquote average consumer. What about some of us who are not the average, some of the techies, if you will? Because I noticed that there's where I'm pointing at is there's a lot of hate towards Windows Phone out there. Now I don't understand why, because of the fact that when it comes down to it, Windows Phone has been extremely innovating in a lot of areas, especially when it comes down to cloud-based applications. I mean, especially when I got my Windows Phone for the first time. I'm talking about the original launch Windows Phone. I actually picked it up, and I was amazed at how quick everything kind of synced up with my Microsoft account, as well as I no longer had to work. I could literally go ahead and check out my resume, for example. I had to go and check out my resume, make modifications to my resume, and then it'll be ready for me to go ahead and save or change again right on my PC as soon as I got home. At the time, Android phones and especially iOS didn't have that. So you got to ask the question, why is it that Windows Phone gets so much hate? And is it because of Microsoft in itself? I mean, I'll put that one at you, Newt, since you are the current owner of the Windows Phone. What do you think?
I think, Microsoft definitely had a thing to do with it. I'm a victim of it myself. Just going along with Microsoft, there's a lot of things that Microsoft has done and just stuff they put out there just out of nowhere dropped, just lack of support, and that's kind of a fear for a lot of consumers out there. It's like
Zoom.
The Zoom Prime Key, man. I was like, okay, the I touched, the all that. I was like, nope, I'm gonna go no iPod. I'm gonna try this Zoom player, and 2 years later, I was just by myself and zoomed out. So it was kind of scary to kind of invest in this Windows Phone, but that. Like anything, you mentioned Steve Jobs. There's changes of leadership that it's easy to sit there and say Microsoft, Apple, when there's just gears in it. There's gears, and it's like hopefully you're kind of realizing, regardless of the stigma that the company may have, that leadership provides that direction. It wasn't too long ago where no one really knew about Apple. I remember Apple was definitely just not around, not the thing to get, and then something happened, whether it was, just the ideas and different circle of people where Apple just shot straight up and took the world by storm. And
the iPod came out. That's what happened.
iPod came out. Exactly. For Windows, I mean, we can kind of you can kind of monitor, make sure we're touching all bases, keep us from talking in circles. But let's talk about OS. Let's just talk about the OS of these phones itself.
Okay.
We can speak about the Windows 8 OS, and from using iOS and the Android iOS, it is definitely the most streamlined when it comes to features out of the systems that I've worked with.
You say streamlined, I'm going to say, huh? How so, my dude? Because you got to explain it to me. I don't know.
Well, exactly. This is kind of tough because this is coming from. It's trying to really. I think the hardest part about this conversation is to speaking on the Android perspective, because as you said before, it is not just Android. It is Android by whatever maker is curtailing it to itself. So I have the Sony version of the Android system, Jelly Bean. So it was like, its course is going to be different than Samsung, because Samsung is just leading it when it comes to Android system. But in terms of the Sony platform, everything that I have is kind of working like that. I guess the new BB10 hub is in one area. All my emails, all my social interactions. It's just, I didn't have that on the Sony. I had a Sony Xperia, so I didn't have all that. And just, to me, it's just different. And there's a lot of gamers out there. I know there's some of y'all out there that's just tired of being the sheep. You get that one or the other, and you just kind of wanted something different and new, because that's just that techie part of you. And that's what Windows provide. It is real talk, though. It is probably, out of all the systems, it crashes the most. There's times where I'm just walking and my phone just shut off, and I'm just like, man. But when it is streaming and when it's good, it is definitely something. I get compliments just the way it looks, because it's still got that newness factor. I show people, and it is without a doubt, and I'm hoping that it survives this I guess this lifespan of the next 3 years or so when it comes to tech, because I thoroughly enjoy my phone. I never really got a chance to say that with my Sony Xperia, and I had two of them, two versions of that Android system. The people that just say they love their phone, I'm really loving my Windows 8 phone, and I'm hoping it's not wasted money.
No, I hold on 1 second, Legacy. I want to
You
touch
got
on
it.
that real quick because he does have a very good point right there. Two things. Number one, like when I started working for Apple, I literally got a Windows phone just to kind of spite the people in there, just kind of mess with them. And I gotta say that like outside of the actual Apple offices, like when I was like with other people, a lot of people was just complimenting the phone. They loved the way it looked. It definitely was something that seemed to just belong in the business world. So I mean, I definitely got I got a lot of love for that just alone, just my phone alone, or especially working outside the box. Another thing is that he's also right. Like when it comes down to it, the Windows Phone is extremely streamlined, and it's like that's one of the things I love about the most. It's like I don't have to have to running around or anything like that, or anything like that. It just works.
So I guess I'm not disagreeing with you guys. Obviously, I don't have a Windows phone. I think that it has enormous potential. I'm actually surprised Microsoft let BlackBerry come back at all. I mean, you think about it. I think where Microsoft is missing opportunities with their phones is besides being streamlined, I don't know how tightly everything is integrated. I mean, they've got an Xbox system in your living room. You've got your Windows desktop PC. Maybe you have a Surface tablet or whatever. They should be integrating these into like a seamless computing experience, and especially when you consider their business apps like the Office suite.
Well,
So
they are kind. They are kind of
okay.
are.
So when you say streamline, I guess that's what you're talking about, or because that would see the thing that would make me ambivalent about Windows phones altogether, aside from that lack of integration, which I think Apple really gets right, is you've been burned in the past. You think about Windows Mobile, which was completely bloated, completely crashy and buggy, and they passed that off as a legitimate phone operating system until iPhone had to show them how to do it right. And that's not fanboyism, man. And so somebody like me would be ambivalent, but then I would listen to what you guys have to say and be like, well, maybe I should give them a second look. Windows 8 is out, 8.1 is coming out later this summer. Maybe there's something to be said to this new Windows 8 Windows Mobile experience. So
No, definitely. I mean, like I said, when it comes down to it, a lot of people have asked me before, and I definitely got to go ahead and give the love for, when people ask me, like, should I get a Windows phone? I can't really jump out there and say, yeah, grab it. But I could definitely tell them that there's a lot of great things going on with the Windows phone. But since you did actually go ahead and touch on that, let's talk about the elephant in the room, of course, is BlackBerry. Because
yeah.
I don't know too much about BlackBerry now, but I mean, even I had to do just a kind of a quick research thing on it, and it was looking great. What do you guys thought on that?
I think BlackBerry, it's a great thing that BlackBerry's back. I mean, we're trying to jump in. We're not talking fanboyism, but we actually have our preferences when it comes to phones, so it's real easy to throw jabs at each other. But when you talk about these other, I think anything that is new to the market that brings choice is awesome for the consumer in two ways. One, it's the prices that comes out due to it, lower prices trying to grab it, and you get that new tech and you get to play with it, enjoy it. And two, it just kind of it just adds to the excitement of these groups happen. You get your iPhone boys and you get your Microsoft boys, and you kind of and the funny thing is that none of us work for this company, these companies, but we just act like we like we just know the people there. So it's I think this is all good for the consumer, and it definitely pushes each person within that battle to push out the latest tech and bring more and more to the table than they would if they didn't have competitors. So BB10
Definitely.
coming out, yeah, kind of maybe Microsoft maybe shouldn't let them come, but I'm kind of glad to hear as well, because in the end result, you're going to get good stuff. It's just going to happen. You're going to get great new technology, which is going to work. The BlackBerry, in my opinion, is just that it's going to break, I think, strides in when it comes to the business, regardless of what people say. A lot of people try to say that BlackBerry users in business. BlackBerry was here for such a long time, and there are still people that has just been waiting, that are holding out for BlackBerry. Even some folks that may have gotten another phone, and now that BlackBerry is back, it is what considered at the time, and may not be now, but I still think it holds a lot of relevance, the phone of business, the phone
Yeah.
that separates. And again, it brings out to, it's in life. People want to be different. People want to show off their status. People get different type of cars. People to get different type of things. there's no different from someone using an iPhone that's a business executive than someone that's a college student using an iPhone. But there is a difference as someone that's using a BB10 phone. 9 times out of 10, that person's involved in something.
That is
and that
true.
might bring them in.
Man, I gotta so agree with you. I think honestly, man, the BlackBerry 10, and a little prediction here, is a sleeping giant, man. And I think that they really have a strong opportunity to really make it into something else. So I think for a while, BlackBerry lost its soul. I mean, you're right. It was the select phone for business people, and then for a while, it became everybody's phone. Remember a couple of years ago, 2003, 2004, everybody was wearing using a BlackBerry, primarily because it was the best at handling email. But it was a kind of cool thing, and also the Texan had the touch key. I mean the tactile keyboard there, and then it kind of lost its soul and started being everything but the business device. If it goes back to being that, and remember, right now, Microsoft is trying to catch up in that space, and Apple is definitely trying to catch up in that space to be the business device. If it can get the foothold and do it right, not have the outage issues like it did back in September of last year.
Right.
If they can do it right, man, they have huge potential. I mean,
I think Apple, not to cut you off, Apple needs to open itself up a little bit more, buddy. I mean, you're talking about the integration, but that's the problem. That closed system not being able to curtail it for what businesses need to curtail it for.
Well, that's the thing we're talking about in the business space. So in the business space, while Apple iPhone still has a little bit of a cool factor, man, I still don't think it's the business phone. And I think in the business space, that's where BlackBerry, thinking about WebOS. That's where BlackBerry really has a chance to kind of, be that sleeping giant and make a huge comeback, in my humble opinion.
And what about Android? You being an Android user, because it is a great phone, but at that open source, though, we talk about how Apple needs to be more open. Android, especially in Asia right now, it's just unsafe to have an Android device. I mean, people are losing things left and right. Hackers out there know Android is a system to get. Android is a system to target. So, I mean, how likely do you think Android really has a chance of grasping this demographic of people?
And before you answer that question, just real quick, just touch on that. He's got a good point with that one, especially that one, because I personally have a story. I had some friends over, and I accidentally hacked their Android and got a picture from their thing. I didn't even know who it was for a long time. But I mean, it's just the phone is definitely that phone, and it's like how to put this. A lot of people want the iOS to be open and things of that nature, and I do agree with that. But at the same time, you could be open just like the Android device and be extremely hackable. People like me who don't have no interest in hacking phones from a mobile point of view, right? By a mobile point of view, I mean without touching their phone, is sitting there getting into other people's phones and being able to go ahead and grab information from that phone without even trying.
Okay, so I agree with you guys a little bit on the surface, but let's think about hacking in general, what it is. I mean, hacking, you're kind of using something out of its unintended design in order to exploit something. Every system could be hackable. I mean, there's this misnomer out there that Apple devices are not, which they are. They are. They're susceptible to viruses and everything else. So I guess I hear what you're saying, Noop, about the Android. I don't think they're really trying to compete in that business space. I really think that they're just trying to be the alternative to iPhone. That's how they're positioning themselves. I think that, I don't know if I haven't done enough research on it, but I don't know if they've got enterprise servers and types of software in order to support business transactions or anything else like that inside of a company. I just don't think that they're positioning it that way.
Right.
And in terms of being hackable, I think when a hacker goes after, it's like casting a net. It wants to be able to get as many devices as possible. The reason why PCs tend to be hacked more than Apple devices is because there's more PCs. There's a hell of a lot of iPhones out there that have been sold. Some of them have vulnerabilities. I think a lot of hackers are targeting iOS just as much, if not more, than some of the other Android devices that are out there. I mean, they're susceptible to it too.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm going by success rate though. I mean, it is. I mean, we definitely can talk about it later in another video, but it is definitely crazy out there.
Yeah,
Zeph, can we talk about NFC, Zeph?
Oh, here we go. I've been waiting on that to talk about NFC.
NFC in terms of what? Which one?
I just want to know because, again, I'm kind of new to the NFC game. I just now got it with this Windows Phone. How applicable is it? It is like the big thing on everyone's mind. Like there's iPhone users complaining that waiting for Apple to bring out NFC for the next iPhone. Like, I just can't see no applicable use for it. I don't even see it in the business sector being used. I can't see it outside of just showing somebody. Legacy, how often do you use yours?
You know what, man? I got to be honest. I don't that often. I mean, it's a really cool feature. I didn't buy it for the feature, but since the feature's there, it's kind of nice to have. I'm kind of dying to have for an excuse to
Aren't
use
you
it.
anxious to use it? Just want to tap someone's phone no matter how weird it looks, you know?
Absolutely, but I think there's a lot of NFC integration happening because there's so much potential for it, and so you got some smart developers out there trying to figure out, well, how can we leverage this technology? What kind of things can we do? And for Apple to not be trying to include that technology in its current gen phones, or even I don't know if there's going to be in the iPhone 5 or not. It could be a huge mistake, especially if there's a critical app that kind of goes with that.
So okay, just kind of let the audience know, by NFC you're referring to near field communications, correct?
Yeah, near field communications.
Okay.
Yes, my fault.
Which is on the new BB10, which is on the new BlackBerry device.
Oh yeah.
It's the newest thing. All the devices are coming out with a reception, as of now, with the exception of Apple.
Definitely. So, well, is it that near field communication? Is it the NFC? Is that the way that a lot of hackers are actually getting access to other people's phones?
Ooh, man, I know of one way. As you probably know, doing something you're studying right now, people leave Bluetooth ports open all the time, and they don't even have to go to NFC. If it's open and they're not secure, or not properly configured, people will try to get in that way. Upload some malware and get a hold of your contacts, even potentially some passwords that you may have stored in there if you don't have upgraded app software. So
yeah. I've actually done that a couple of times on my cell phone. Not upload malware, but I'm able to connect to other people's cell phones just because I can through Bluetooth.
Yeah, okay. Remind me not to hang out with you too. But going back to the NFC thing, I think there's other things happening too. So like Google Wallet, I think is trying to leverage that in order to be able to have some type of pay technology. So that you take your phone, you get near some type of pay pass or some type of electronic device. It communicates NFC. It knows who you are. It can verify that, and I guess it's got your account already set up, and so it allows you to make quick and smart payments. That's huge potential there too. Right. There's a lot of people trying to get into that e-wallet stuff right now, where your phone is like your wallet. So, there's one huge potential application for NFC.
Yeah, that's true. Use it just like a card. Slide it right past there. Go ahead and pay your stuff.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so that's definitely a good thing. We're definitely going to have to touch on this subject in a later video here, but we're definitely running out of time right now. So final thoughts, go ahead and start off with it, Newt Man.
Hold on, Newt Man. All right, here we go. For me, I like to I'm going to call this segment, make sure you listen. Every segment, I'm going to give my Newt Man tips of the night. All right, so here we go.
All right.
Newt Man, 2 tips for the night. 1, if you are unsure on what mobile device you want and you want to make sure you get a good call, definitely go with the iOS system or the Android system. Those two are pretty much neck and neck, and you can't go wrong. If NFC is what you want, you definitely need to go with the Android system. If you want to test out new tech, try a different system, a different OS, and you're okay with the possibility of losing out on 3 years or having a contract for 2 years, definitely consider the BB10 or the Windows Phone. They're both great systems. Looking like I'm not too sure about the BB10, but again, just definitely check that out. Okay. Second tip for the night: if you are a developer or if you and your boys, how us gamers do, bring this back to the gamers. One thing I haven't seen too much of, and if you have the ability to, is to make a game that connects all systems.
Right.
And I'm talking about all these OSs: iOS, iOS, Google, definitely the Windows. There's few of them out there, and there's no better market for that than anyone who isn't locked to other people with the same type of phone. That's all I got, Seth.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys remember that first one. If you want to be sheeple, go ahead and get yourself an iPhone or an Android. If you want to have something that resembles testicles, go ahead and get yourself a Windows Phone or a BlackBerry.
Wow, that's funny. That's funny.
All right, go ahead, Legacy. Last words.
Just a couple last things, man. I'm thinking iOS is getting a little dated, so I definitely see them being less important coming up this year. I think that there's some potential with Ubuntu OS, which we haven't even talked about, or mobile OS on that. BlackBerry 10 is a sleeping giant, and Android will continue to be ever popular. So there's my little predictions, man.
Hey, you didn't mention my phone.
I'm sorry. Yo, what?
You didn't say nothing about Windows. All right, we're gonna talk about this after.
I thought you said a doorstop. My bad.
All right, all right, cool. You like? All right. You know
Listen,
what?
man. Listen. Windows has always got potential out there. My thing is always like it has always been is integration. If they can nail it, man, Windows is an unstoppable beast, man. So definitely don't want to overlook that. I think that there's huge potential there too. So you're absolutely right.
His phone is ugly. Go ahead.
So just for my final words too, I mean, I definitely got to go ahead and kind of give a nod towards the whole Ubuntu phone thing because I've been definitely looking at that and I'm kind of getting excited for it too. I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually looking better than the Android, but that's something in the future that we're going to have to definitely go ahead and look into in another video here. Aside from that, I got to say that I'm still to this day I'm still confused in terms of why the I mean, I understand in terms of like the consumer, and I keep calling them this, but I'm going to call them again because it seems like it's the right thing to call them sheeple out there who currently purchase the iOS. But I mean, it just seems like if the people actually don't go ahead and kind of let their voices be heard by going ahead and letting Apple know about the fact that they're the ones that's lagging behind in every single version of technology that is currently out there right now, except for a little crap. And now then you ain't going to get no change with the, I mean, hey, am I wrong? What differences really does the iPhone i3, what is it? What was the last one? 4 versus the S really had. The 4S versus the 5 rather. Not too much, And everything that the 5 had is stuff that Android and Windows Phone already had. I'm just saying. No hate, but I'm just saying that. But anyway, what do you guys think out there? Let your comments be heard in the comment section below. We're definitely going to go ahead and touch on that in the future video. We're definitely going to be a part 2 of this video. Until then, guys, go ahead and give your goodbyes.
Out here, man.